Hi guys! I've got the second chapter of our book to read to you. I've not got Luna with me today because we've had some clothes in the dryer, and when the dryer's finished and it's warm, she loves to go and have a nap in there. So she's in there. I might show you a picture later. So we're on chapter 2. It wasn't far from my school to Uncle Ali's shop, and I was early for once, so I didn't have to hurry. I hated school. I was useless at all the lessons. None of them would help me become the big shot businessman I was going to be. What made things worse was that both Iman and Musa were brilliant. Iman was the teacher's pet at her girls' school, her books neat and tidy, getting top marks for everything. She wanted to be a teacher. Baba frowned when she said that, but Ma gave her encouraging smiles behind his back. She'd wanted to be a teacher herself when she was young, but her dad had married her off to Baba when she was 15, so she didn't have the chance. Musa and I went to the boys' school. The teachers had written him off for years and said he was stupid. They never even tried to understand what he said, so after a while he just gave up talking. It was true that his handwriting was rubbish, because he couldn't stop his hands jerking, but that didn't mean he couldn't learn anything. If I'd been laughed at and bullied as much as Musa had always been, I think I'd have given up going to school altogether, but Musa had guts. He stuck with school, bruises, torn up notebooks, insults and all. By the time he was 12, he'd earned a sort of grudging respect, and most of the school bullies left him alone. He had a lucky break in 7th grade. His teacher, Mr Ibrahim, wasn't like the others. He discovered what our family had known all along. Musa was a total brain box. He could do difficult equations in his head as easily as blinking. He actually liked reading books too, which was more than anyone else I knew. If you could be bothered to sit and listen to Musa's mangled up speech, he could tell you the most amazing things about whales, human DNA, the Ottoman Empire, snakes, and the atmosphere of the planet Jupiter. Once Mr Ibrahim had cracked Musa's code, he became a bit of a legend. He made a couple of friends too. They were real geeks, quite frankly. The three of them went around together talking non-stop about no one knew what. It was social death to be seen around Musa's nerdy friends, so no one went near them. It was annoying being a couple of years behind Musa at school, because everyone expected me to be a genius too. It was Musa who helped me out, actually. In the evenings, when he could be bothered, he'd more or less dictate my homework to me. He only did it to feel superior for once. And he owed it to me, I reckoned, because of all the times I'd have to haul the bullies off him. Though if I'm honest, I had sometimes sneaked off in the opposite direction when I'd seen trouble looming. While I'm going on about my family, I might as well mention the little ones. There was a big gap between them and me. My little brother Fuad was only 5 and was quite irritating most of the time. Nadia was just 1.5, so she was only a baby. She was sweet, and I liked picking her up and playing with her. That day at school was just as useless as any other, and when it was over, at last I waited for Musa by the gates. He always went boringly slowly, and I sometimes got impatient and dashed on ahead, but today I wanted to talk to him, so I didn't mind. "Go on then," I said, as soon as we were on the road. "Did you get Ma to tell you what this great secret is?" "Yes." He shifted his school bag from one shoulder to the other and didn't say anything more. "Well then?" "You're not going to like it, Omar." He loved spinning things out. He did it deliberately, just to drive me crazy. I gave him a whack with my school bag, then had to grab his shoulder to pull him upright again as I'd nearly overbalanced him. "Don't do that," he said indignantly. "I won't tell you now." But I could see he was dying to. I swallowed my irritation. "I'll carry your bag if you'll tell me," I said, offering him a way out. He passed it over. It was full of books and was much heavier than mine. "First, you've got to swear you won't let on," he said. "Ma said I wasn't to tell anyone." "I swear." "No, you've got to mean it." "I swear. What do you want me to do, get down and grovel?" "Okay then. Here it is. We're moving to Durar. Baba's been transferred to the Ministry of Agriculture. Now what do you think of that?" I stopped dead, right there, in the middle of the road. The shock had sent tingles all the way through me. "You're joking, Musa. You've got to be." "I said you wouldn't like it. We're going to live with Granny." "What? We can't. Auntie Majda lives there, with Uncle Faisal and all their kids. They're moving out. Come on, Omar, you can't just stand there blocking up the street all day." Somehow I got my legs moving again. "Does Iman know?" "I expect so. Ma tells her everything." I suppose Fuad and baby Nadia and half the street know as well, everyone except me. Don't be like that. I only found out because you overheard Baba and got me to ask Ma, remember? She'd have told you anyway, I said bitterly. Musa was walking faster than me for once. I actually had to catch up with him. When's all this going to happen? End of the month. What? But that's only 3 weeks away. It's practically tomorrow. What about my job with Rasool and the postcards? Who cares about your postcards? It was Musa's turn to sound jealous. You told me yourself the tourists have nearly stopped coming anyway. Middle and East are dirty words as far as they're concerned. I bit my lip. I had to agree he was right. The tourists were staying away because they were scared. Hadn't sold a single strip of cards for weeks. I walked on in silence, trying to take in the news. Moose's feelings must have been boiling around too, because he burst out at last. It's all very well for you. What about me? It'll start all over again. Thicko, dumbhead, crippled, take that plum out of your mouth, Musa boy. Go on, Musa, run. Hey guys, look at that. Freak show, freak show. And the beatings. Remember that time they broke my arm? You worrying about your postcards. He stopped, and I could tell he was all choked up. Sorry, I mumbled. I wasn't thinking. And that's just the kids. The teachers will be worse. They'll ignore me, call me stupid, ask Baba if I can count up to 10 and make me sit with the babies. He couldn't go on. I'll stick up for you, I said, sounding lame even to myself. I promise I won't let anyone. Yeah, thanks, Musa interrupted. Like it's cool getting your little brother to fight your battles for you. We'd almost reached home. Take my bag in for me, I said, thrusting it at him. I don't want to face them yet. And I sprinted off towards the Roman theatre, desperate to see Rasool, desperate to keep my dreams alive. On ordinary days, the old city of Bosra was busy. There'd be coaches coming in, full of tourists. The drivers would drop them off in the car park, and then everyone would head off to the ruins. There wasn't much point trying to sell things to people when they first arrived. It was after they'd tired themselves out wandering for miles up and down the dusty old streets and taking millions of photographs of each other in the theatre that they might be up for buying things. There was a nice shady place with chairs under the trees and stalls selling cold drinks, and that was where Rasool had his souvenir shop. His wasn't the only one. There was a whole cluster of them. They looked pretty, with displays of rugs and painted china, strings of camel bells, old brass trays, and woven scarves and bags. That day, though, things were even quieter than usual. There wasn't even a single car in the car park. Half of the stalls were closed, and the drinks place was shut. The few shopkeepers who had opened were clustered around Rasool, whose mobile phone was clamped to his ear. He was listening to something intently, and repeating what he was hearing to others. I could tell by the way they were standing that the news was bad. Egypt, I heard him say. Demonstrators shot. That's bad. One man's shoulders were all hunched up. Another was half turned away, as if he didn't want to look anyone in the eye. Even the postcard boys looked subdued. Usually, when no tourists were around, they'd set up targets and throw stones at them until the adults yelled at them for chipping bits off the Roman columns. Now they were looking from one serious face to another, trying to understand what was going on. Rasool nodded to me to come over. He finished his call and slid his phone into his pocket. Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, trouble blowing up everywhere. It won't happen here, one of the men said. This government. He looked quickly around the group and went quiet, as if he was afraid he'd said too much. One by one the men mumbled goodbye, and a little later all you could hear was the rattle of vessel shutters coming down. Rasool went to the back of his own shop and started rooting through the drawer where he kept papers and money. I followed him inside. Tell me, I begged. What's happening? Rasool looked grim. Bad stuff, little cousin. All over the Middle East. He dropped his voice. Security here is tight, but people are angry. He put his fingers to his lips. Pretend I didn't say that. You don't want me to get into trouble. Baba says our government's really strong, I said, trying to think of something comforting to say. He says they won't allow any nonsense from troublemakers here. Rasool scowled. Your Baba. He stopped. What? Let's just say we don't agree on politics. He works for the government after all. Not really, it's just the tourist office. I was about to blurt out that Baba had accepted another job in Daraa when I remembered my promise to Musa. The tourist office is government, said Rasul. Anyway, he's going to be with the Minister of Agriculture in Daraa soon. I stared at him, a red tide of anger threatening to swamp me. Everyone knew about it before I did, and I only just found out now from Musa. It's so unfair. Rasul laughed. Don't be like that. You look like an indignant little rooster, all red and furious. Being laughed at, especially by my hero, was the final straw. Tears spurted into my eyes. Sorry. Look, I didn't mean to laugh at you. I know because your dad asked me to sound out someone I knew in the Ministry of Agriculture. He wanted to know if it was a good place to work. I was honest with him. I said he'd make more money, but everyone hates government people in Daraa, and he'd be very unpopular. He wouldn't listen to me. I expect he didn't tell you because he didn't want you to be upset too soon. I swallowed. It's all right, I managed to say. It's just that I want to stay here and work with you, selling cards and stuff. You wouldn't be able to do that anyway. Rasul was rifling through his drawer again. He pulled out a business card, looked at it, and put it into his pocket. I'm clearing out myself. Tourism's finished here. Look around you. See any buses? Chinese tour groups? German families? Not even a scruffy backpacker. He dropped his voice. There's so much corruption in this country. Repression, arrests. People are getting tired of it. Especially in Daraa. That's where the trouble will start. It'll be nasty too. Anyway, I don't want any part of it. You can't run a decent business in this country. I'm getting out. I felt another flush of anger. So it's a great idea, isn't it, to move us all to Daraa into a lot of nasty trouble? You'll be all right, he said breezily. Just don't... I know, I interrupted him. Don't talk about politics. Keep your thoughts to yourself. Blah, blah, blah. I followed him out of the shop and waited whilst he pulled his own metal shutter down. I'll walk home with you, he said. I'm going that way. What are you going to do, Rasul? I asked him. He was walking so fast I almost had to run to keep up. I'm getting out, he replied quietly. What do you mean? A horrible anxiety was gripping me. He slipped his hand inside his leather jacket and pulled out the business card he'd fished out of his drawer. This is the passport to my future, Omar. That's not a passport. I know what a passport looks like. He gave my arm a playful whack. The man whose name is on this card is going to take me to my future, he said grandly. I'm heading to Germany, or Sweden, or England. But it's dangerous, I said anxiously. I've heard about those traffickers. They let you suffocate in the backs of lorries, and you get drowned in the sea, and... Nah, he said. This guy knows lots of ways. He's expensive, but it'll be worth it. There was a lump in my throat, and I had to swallow hard again before I could speak. What are you going to do in Europe? Work hard, save money, open my own shop. In a year or two, I'll send for you. We'll go into business together. I felt as if the sun had come out after a freezing shower of rain. Do you mean that, Rasul? Course I do. You're a natural salesman. We'll make a fortune together. Hey, no tears. I'm not saying goodbye just yet. It'll be weeks before I'm ready to go. I'll come and see you all before you leave for Daraa. And that is the end of that chapter. So you'll have to wait to see if he gets to see his cousin again before all of his family move. So you'll have to think what you think might happen next and whether you think they will be safe in their new home, in the new place that they are moving to. I hope you're enjoying the story. You can let me know on the blog if you are. And I hope that you're all staying safe at home and that you all should keep in touch with everyone because we're loving seeing all the messages from you, and I will see you next time. Bye! Just as I finished that and said bye, this little one came meowing at the door, so she must have known I was doing a video and she must have wanted to say hello to all of you. So a quick hello from Luna and bye again.